something I want to share. And I feel like we are at the pinnacle of just everything becoming blank. To tell one story is to relay everything that has ever happened as far as one processing his experience of everything that he has ever encountered as information. And this is something that is very crucial for where there is the pieces to the puzzle that add to every story. There is life that begins at conception, and there is also wind that begins before there is even a breath to inhale. The sun may go down where you see the moon doesn't shine when the sun is aligned, but the moon is actually brighter than the sun because it is a glow that you can look at and that you can feel its presence on the blackened sky with the little tiny dots that are stars that are surrounding. And I just say this: let your light shine before the whole world to see who it is that you are meant to be, that you are meant to carry every sort of destination and every cause and effect that happens as a result of what you put in and what you reject, what you define that is more than symbolism, but that is actualism. Taking a stance on all the positions of where you are trying to gain that which is of a gold throne. But do you know that wisdom is more precious than gold? And the system that is old, the system that is past tense, everything that you've ever experienced as far as fire on your skin, fire in your whole entire biology, is the world that has crushed you against what is the system. What is you trying to find actual living, spiritual birth and giving? You know, I'm going to say this: we are living in a rat race, and we are living to the finish to what we could start over again. After something that has been broken, something then is to be taken and to be fixed again. That is your life when you have everything that has been stolen, everything that has been owed to your 9 to 5, where you're working every day just to survive, but you're not working in a way to thrive. Are you really being satisfied with the company that you keep? For all the things that people pull you as far as strings, have you ever been in the company of those that have ever told you the way that you can make money, the way that you could thrive successfully, stress free, in a way that is putting your mind into intuition that succeeds anything that is superstition? Can you see the forest for the trees? Can you see that you're not looking really at yourself when you're looking in the mirror? You're seeing that which is only speaking back to your inner self, speaking back to the things that are really denying what is of your true self, because you could speak to yourself while looking in the mirror, but you're speaking to a version that you're seeing that is looking back at you. And everything that you want to hear as far as truth is basically comfort in lies. The world that you live in is something that you can't escape from. There is no such thing as having hope where it is you having wishful thinking that everything is going to work itself out and everything is going to wean itself out as far as destruction, as far as the path of you choosing a free company of all abundance, of satisfactory, of choosing wealth, behind the hidden scenes of everything that doesn't really look all of the grass color that is green, all of the obstinance of constellations, and every layout of the blueprint of the universe. Are you able to tap into what is the greatest level of understanding, the greatest level of treasure, that is something that is in your mind, that is remotely to where you could move even the very slightest touch of atmospheres, when you are just allowing your mind to speak everything that is truth inside of a world that you are confined in prison walls because you are misunderstood by everyone that you speak about, everything that is of inundation, of simultation, and all truths that lead to one way of separation from being in prison. When you're speaking the way of finding the true path of freedom, is when you have everything that is completely on focus. Your lenses is operating through seeing through all of the facade entries. You're seeing through all of the pretending machines operating and scanning everything that is to do with your role as playing of an actor in this world. You playing the role that fulfills what is of complementary endeavor and satisfaction to one's ego. That's the role that you are playing most of the time. But you got to really think critically. How do I solve the bracket of misunderstanding? People not seeing me for who I really am. They're not seeing the in-depthness of just the basic truths of just being, just seeing with open eyes and expressing, just all of reality in the form of the grand scheme that is governed by a higher awaiting of what is measured by a totality of things to end and things to begin anew, things to arise, such as the pressure of having hidden treasure. And when you learn to love people in a way that is loving the fact that they are there as your interaction, that they're there as a heartbeat that is one skip away from your heartbeat in the same arrays, the same patternization that we all are fundamentally of consuming advertisements and fulfilling everything that is to be done, everything that is to be said about life on the way that us being consumers and us trying to be visionaries at the same time, it doesn't mix. It's like you are forced to go along with compliance rather than going along with creativity. It's like you are forced to go along with the wind rather than control what is of your breath that is towards the wind, for an example. It's like you are fed information that is from those that want you to learn the criteria of certain conformities, but they don't want you to self educate. They don't want you to find what is a totality of freedom that reigns from you yourself letting go. They want you to hold on. They want you to feel like you're obligated to what is of their system, what is of their malpractice that you fall under when something goes wrong. It is you that is malpracticed against whatever they've been trying to do as far as sustaining revenue, as far as everything that is a blueprint that they have paved, and everything of religion that they have used as a weapon to where you need something of being saved. It is their calling, it is their way of how they set the bar, and you have to follow and you have to go and pursue that which is being at the level of the bar that they have set. But if you try to raise the bar to a higher level, to a new standard that is your standard, to where you are on the verge of gaining what is insight from a view that is of a spiritual concept that is remotely breaking down everything that has to do with individual literal scripts, and you're breaking down everything that we have all been diced into as far as how we need to not oblige, to everything that is for us to make ourselves become what they want us to become. Docile when it comes to important information. They don't want us to research, they want us to simply listen to what they have to say. They don't want you to confront them when it comes to refusing to help those who are in any type of real painful need. They just want you to give the money where it is needed. And they don't want to hear about what is morality, what is actuality of God and wisdom that comes from God. They want knowledge that is from textbooks, from social media, information that is spread through Webster's dictionary. That's what they want as far as anything that has to do with a gospel. A truth that they are preaching that is of themselves, but not the truth that comes from heaven itself. It's all about how they can fill their pockets, and with you losing everything that is tied to your wallet. You think about it. Every game that we play, there is a hit and miss. And if you are the target that misses, you lose basically everything that belongs inside of your identity. You lose your respectability. You lose your credibility. You lose everything that is of credit, everything that has to do with who you are as far as trying to live like a star, trying to live, in the way of being someone that matters. Because if you lose everything, you don't, in the end, really matter. But those who lose, they just find a way to get back up and they win again and again, even with their losses, because they are on the chessboard and they play the game the way that they want to play it. And there's no winning or losing with them. It is just creating, a story of an event that one is playing in. But you are the actual literal loss in something that you lose, according to them. You think about how every rent here in this society that we are in, this Western society, is astronomical to the point where people can't afford any basic survival unless they are working 6 jobs, even 3 9 to 5s, and then hustles on the side to make up extra income to supply themselves with the ordinary life. Now, if you lose that income of supply, if you lose your position that you are in, you lose the game that is in life and your reputation goes out the window. Those who have everything stacked in their favor, they don't have to lose anything, even if they quit voluntarily, because everything that they have as far as every asset, every resource is legit. You know what I mean? There is no long-term suffering with those who have every outlet to sustain themselves. They have every hidden sort of resource of every type of money, every type of standard that is of gold, every type of precious ornament that is made of every rich continent. These people own, and yet you're at the expense of you being their laborers to where you're extract that is of your labor to their benefit. So the average person loses if he is just on the brink of survival. That's just how it is. It's a rat race. But do you know, one has to find something that can sustain his revenue. If literal revenue, such as money, doesn't come into play, if that fails to where you cannot have the amount of wealth in your pocket, wealth in your bank, wealth that you could wear physically, then you have to adapt to infinite amount of wisdom that you can search and that you could have where the whole world could literally rest inside of you. You have to be able to own this world by knowledge to break down, all of the chronological flows of us being here through every type of presence of this world structure and being able to own everything that is physical structures and monuments through our mind, because God is not the author of what is confusion, because he makes everything that is spiritually equipped for those who have what it takes to conquer through one's mental ability, spiritual ability, than the things that are physical that could easily break you. Because you have to adapt to a way to where you could use what is of your God-given spirituality and mind and body to embody this world. That is speaking of the things that what wealth can't buy is knowledge. Wealth can't buy wisdom out of a person. Wealth can't buy anything that is powerfully spoken, that can change the whole entire world. And that is the Bible, I'm going to say. God's word is infinite. God's word is unlimited. God's word doesn't have a beginning and end. And no, there is no fear attached to God of anything that is tangible. God is the ultimate resource. God is not simply finite. God actually moved himself through his only begotten Son to shed his blood. And his blood came at a cost. It came at a price, to where individual slaves become individually free by the blood that is of Christ when they receive him, and then they learn to teach the ways of Christ, him dying as being a part of a sacrifice that he didn't have to sacrifice. See, Jesus, he was the king that it was all of kings, and yet he didn't come to be served, he came to serve. And what I am thankful for is the power of Christ working in just my life in a very refined way of just me feeling then absent from everything that this world has crushed me and that has endeavored me to limit possibilities, limit finite understanding, and even relationships that have been finite, that have only been for a purpose of temporary cause and effect, and also being rejected. And before the very foundations of everything I went through, God, he has selected what was of me to become something that, in this crossroad of both what is of good and what is of evil, and there is all of everything that is of energy tied to what is good and what is evil in all people. And we have to realize, this world with all the brokenness, all the hopelessness, all the despair, all the lost time of people's hearts that have been stolen, all of the fragility that we see in every fragile life, and all the things that are happening, such as changing events, changing of currents, changing of all currencies, everything from old to new. The only thing that is going to save you is the blood that was poured out from Christ himself. And what you think could save you, as far as putting your hope in something that can't be found, that can't be long-term sustained, that can't be, as far as anything you're trying to hold very tightly to where you don't want to let go, it will be the end of your own rope. Without seeing someone who is higher, someone who is greater. For that we know that there are universes beyond universes. We know that there are mountains that are higher than even the highest of mountains that are invisible, touching the sky. You know what I mean? The sky's the limit as far as how high a mountain could actually reach the clouds. Even beyond the clouds, beyond even the stars, beyond even the horizons of every multiplicit galaxy. There are mountains that are invisible that are covering up every layout of the highest of all that is beyond Earth's skies. And I'm going to tell you right now, there are gatekeepers on this earth that are trying to reach to the fullest of heaven with their technology. That they are repeating what is of the law that was given to the people, to congregate in a way to them figuring out how they could climb what is of the tower that was Babel. They wanted to all be in one accord to try to reach up to God, and God confounded them. He separated their languages. He brought upon that which is scattering all four corners of the earth. And he made them not understand one another, so this way they couldn't be cohesive. They couldn't, understand each other's identity, so they weren't on the same page. To try to all understand each other, to try to be like God, or to climb the highest of hills to heaven. So God knew this, and he separated. And, this is what we try to do today. We try to say that a life doesn't matter if that life seems to be unfruitful, if that life is not someone who is somebody of great importance, if that person is not contributing on a level of expedited amount of wealth, if that person is not severely educated in a way that is conformed to the system, if that person is not sharp enough, if that person is not intellectual enough, we look at that person as taking up space. We play the role of a God when we can choose to eliminate people to where we want to get rid of them off of the face of the earth, because we choose who is more gifted. We choose who is more to be accepted, and who is valued based upon who is more sharp in just conformity and also productivity. Those who produce more with the ability of having a gift of producing. Those who have wealth that is beyond extravagant, they basically are worth, saving if they were on some sort of life support. And those who are poorer, they're not worthy, it seems, of the life support of them being saved. You see what I mean? Everything is backwards when it comes to doing the right thing. I'm saying the way that everything is set up that is based off of money, money is what buys, life itself in this world. In man's world, man's idea, everything is about money, no matter what it is. Even if it comes to choosing who is allowed to live and who is allowed to die. And this is why I'm grateful to God that he has chosen me life. And my life is not at the hands of rich people or poor people. My life is not in the hands of oligarchs. It's not in the hands of rebels. My life is not in the hands of those who try to grapple water and those who are trying to hold on to sand, quicksand in their hands that they both literally fall right through. Just one is more solid than the other, but they don't have a powerful concrete grip that you can hold. So therefore, that's the idea of people that sell their souls to have some sort of gain of, a position of hierarchy. And when they throw others that are completely to be remotely under the guardrails, and they are simply thrown to where they can't get across to where safety can bridge them, and they throw them in a place of desolancy, and those rails that they are supposed to be protected is how they are rejected. They use people at their own expense of those that continue to try to become more powerful, and that means even best friends will betray you. Even close relatives will sell you out, in the way that Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers, and they made it appear as if he was killed by a ram, killed by a bull, I think it was, and ripped to pieces, and the blood was on the robe that was of all colors. And they made it to where they said to their father that Joseph was killed by a ram, by a bull, and they showed the blood, and it was believable when he was thrown simply in a pit and he had nowhere to escape. But he was let out, and even while he was in slavery, he ruled intellectually, spiritually over Egypt. And he was able to tell the dreams that he saw in his vision, that they hated his own family because they felt like they were going to be ruled over. So the thing is this, it's almost like your mind and the things that you're able to really wrap the whole entire society and all of that which is, oppression from even the very people that they can do anything to you physically that are even close to you. All you have to do is wrap their entire being around your mind, and then your mind can really pick apart their physiological control if you just have the wisdom to use what is in your mind to then navigate powerful ways of speaking for yourself that speaks against, the things that are physically tyranny, and you could rule over nations by the power that is divine, that God gives those who are awake to shatter those who are blind, who are walking deliberately blind. And this is what I feel like this world has come to. You have to stop to think for a moment, why are all these things happening that where people are losing their identity, they're losing their birthright. Like in this country, for an example, people are always talking about how things need to go back to the old ways, in the old days of things. Well, you've been infiltrated even during the times when things felt very normal, because you've allowed what is of your actions, the things of rebelling against the one who created all, the morality that you have traded for temporary pleasure and immorality, to flourish within amongst you individuals of society. There are consequences when a nation turns itself against the Almighty. There is bloodshed that happens. There is poverty that happens. There is delays of even birth and rebirth, meaning that children can be stopped from being born when couples get together and they try to procreate. That process of not being able to have children could be delayed by the power of God, because you're not responsible to bring offspring in this world because of what you have been given, you have squandered. And the opportunity to be a role model is not there. So less people being born means less of a population to continue in many ways. And less education means more ignorance that continues to flourish. And that's why poverty increases, and that's why knowledge ceases eventually. When people are constantly killing each other over just political incorrect decisions and things that they are fighting over that is confusion, it's all because people have allowed themselves to be bought out. People have allowed their intellect to be sought out and to be used against them, and to use ignorance against each other to get rid of each other, and to then take purposely resources that doesn't belong to them. It becomes like the jungle of survival. And we live in a state where you can't really speak your mind anymore. You can't speak, life lessons anymore that has to do with order, that has to do with, every ounce of truth, because we have been turned into don't say anything because something will happen to you. You are put into a bracket of where you're forced to be isolated if you're someone who is not part of the consumer world. You could play along a little bit with it, like you can buy certain things. You could, be a part of the, supply and demand, but you're not caught in it. You're not designed to be fashionable of it. It's like you do whatever is going to give you that frame of peace that's centered of your individuality, not, losing or wasting a single breath that is of your precious time to be an ongoing consumer. You're not looking to do that. You're looking to find ways that you could grow in your entire being, in your entire awareness. You're looking for ways to grow in all levels of becoming greater of yourself on all levels through separation of everything that is just transactional based. You're trying to get rid of the mindset of being tied to everything that is transactional because the system wants you to crumble into being a slave. It's like they set up the rules to where it's like you got to play the game. You got to play in order to, flourish. And this is why so many people are unhappy, so many people are unstable, so many people are in a state of constant flowing rebellion. People work extra hours just to earn less. People want to invest and they can't find the resources to invest. There's pressure that is put upon people to become something that is of wealth, to become something that is of powerful ambition. But what does that all lead to when you already have been feeling empty about yourself? When you're empty because you feel like there is no real attachment of you being recognized and you really being looked at as somebody with value, when the world just, and friends, even people who are in spiritual circles, they look at the things of what you can give them, whatever you can serve them, whatever you could, make their garments shine brighter. That's your value, that's your worth. And when people realize that everything is pretend, everything is temporary as far as people valuing you only when you are valued. Like youth, for an example, is valued on such a high pedestal. But those who are older, they have all the wisdom that they've accumulated through life, and yet they're invisible to people that look at them as far as their appearance, as far as what's on the outside. It's like those who are older in years of life are less appreciated because they're looking at the outward appearance. They think youth is everything that is beautiful, that is precious of an ornament, that is displayed and that is to be cherished and that is to be put on a very high scale of affirmation and credibility. But yet someone who is older in their years, beyond their years, they carry such, we could say, layers of great amount of wisdom that shatters even the physical appearance of something that I call youth outwardly. Wisdom is something that is of a lifetime of everything that is inside of a person that has gone through the ins and outs of all types of levels of joy, pain, suffering, every level of competition in this earthly realm that they had to fight for survival. Every type of philosophy they could have came across, that they could have explored, every level of what is psychological intuition. They could have gone through every heartbreak. They could have gone through every war, physically, emotionally, and literally in a spiritualization of war. They could have gone through investments where they have made the highest amount of income that they could have made. They could have built great enterprises of just great annuities from all different richness, from the ground on up to 401ks and to every currency that you could think of. You could also look at the fact that a blind man can see literally himself in his mind. He can see everything that is innocent because he's not looking with his eyes openly to where he can see all the filthiness of the world. He is not tempted by his own eyes looking at what is depravity. He's not looking at the fallenness of man's flesh, the fallenness of sin, is not in his vision to then take in, to then harness what is a mental temptation to then go and sin against God. So when you're blind, you see innocence, even though you can't see. It's just like what Jesus said, I have come to give sight to those who can't see and to take away sight from those who can. The scribes responded and they said, so are you saying, are we blind? Jesus says, if you were blind, you would have no sin. But since you say that we see, your sin remains. So you think about it. How come we cherish those who are able to see clearly, but those who are blind, we act as if they don't hear everything that is a voice speaking to them clearly, to where they can see in their own spiritual eyes everything that is clearly. We don't honor those who are without, we honor those that are with. Because we look at the things on the surface, we don't look at those who carry the greatest of treasures that is inside of their being. We overlook those who are silent, but we look at those who are the loudest. We cheer those who are of the crowds, but we don't cheer those who stand aside from the crowds, that go their own way. We listen to what is of popularism and acceptance of things that are popular, but anything that is not popular, we automatically label as not wanting to be associated with, not wanting to follow what is individual self-realization and practice. And this goes back to like the narrow way versus the broadened way. Narrow way that leads to life is very few, and the broadened way is many that go into what is the way that leads to destruction. I'm just speaking truth, y'all. And all I could say is life begins when you start living it in the way that is not you allowing anyone to take it away from you, and to take the power that comes from above out of you, to where you could fulfill everything that is of destiny to be fulfilled, and treasure to gain inside of you, and to produce that which is treasure outside of you physically.